Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Christina Hamilton. I'm the Member Care Coordinator here at CHFA. So today we're doing a Q&A question and answer webinar with Barry Choi. So Barry is an award-winning personal finance and um, travel expert. So he does regularly appear on different shows in Canada and the US where he talks about all things money and travel. So this webinar, like I stated, will be a Q&A style. So we welcome questions throughout the webinar. The Q&A section is open. So we'll start out just kind of going through some common questions people have about financial literacy. And as we go through the slides, just feel free to add in any questions or comments you may have. So this first one is kind of something that I think we've all been through, which is financial stress. So Barry, if you can kind of go through exactly what is financial health and why it's so important for business owners to understand it.
Yeah, generally speaking, these days, when you're talking about employees, financial health, financial stress is some of the major things people are talking about. You think about inflation over the last couple of years is obviously being on the rise. A lot of employees feel like their wages haven't caught up to those increases. So even though they may be working harder, they're not necessarily getting further ahead. And on top of that, a lot of employers, they're offering fewer benefits or benefits that don't necessarily matter to them. So this is why financial stress, financial health has never been more important. So for example, RBC Economics recently put out a financial stress report, and they found that 37% are financially stressed. 63% spend all of their net pay each month. And to be clear, that means 63% of people are living paycheck to paycheck. If they miss one paycheck, whether, they lose their job or if their employer accidentally, doesn't pay them on time, they could be facing some serious consequences. 30% spend more than their net pay each month. And that may sound shocking, but what that means is people are just dipping into their credit cards. They're borrowing money. So they're not even getting ahead. They're falling behind every single paycheck. And what's really interesting about these numbers, it was based on people who are currently employed, not people who are looking at jobs. And on top of that, 35% of those surveyed earn more than $100,000 a year. So it doesn't matter if you're a low income, medium income, or high income earner. Everyone's financially stressed these days, and that's why it's vital to talk about it.
Okay. So employee benefit plans. So Barry, do you have any suggested plans that you think would be good for our members? And what exactly should they look out for? What makes a good plan?
So first, we're going to talk about some stats. This came from the same RBC Economics report, where they found that 66% of Canadians have access to employer-provided benefits. Now, that number sounds pretty good, and it is, but that means 1/3 of Canadians have no employee benefits whatsoever. Now, that might just be because they're part-time and employers don't offer great benefits for part-time employees, but maybe there's some employers who don't offer any benefits at all. 54% of employees that have access to employer benefits say their overall financial health is good or excellent, which typically makes sense, right? If you've got benefits, you got to go to the dentist, you got to get some other things going on. You're not as worried, like glasses, because you have those benefits coming. You're not paying that money out of pocket. However, 33% of employees that employer provided benefits say their overall financial health is good or excellent. So what that means to me is employees, even though they may have benefits, they're not reaping all of them. And the sad truth is a lot of employers, and this is certainly understandable, are looking out for their bottom line. So yeah, they may be offering some health benefits, but are they really worth it? One good example I like to use is glasses. My wife wears glasses. I don't wear glasses, but in the 20 years when I worked for someone else, I'm currently self-employed, the glasses benefits never changed. It was always $200 every 2 years. So anyone who wears glasses probably knows they're very expensive. You'll burn through those $200 quickly. Quite often, you need glasses more than once a year. So what's happening is a lot of employers are keeping that cost down because they know employees are claiming it. and then they're offering more benefits for something that the research shows employees aren't claiming, like massages, right? So employers can pat themselves on the back and say, oh, we offer some great benefits, but the reality is employees are getting smarter. They know what's going on, they see what you're doing, and what kind of benefits you offer is part of the holistic package. And if you want to retain those top tier employees, you got to make sure employee benefits package is on par and at least comparable to other major companies.
So, Barry, a lot of our members are small startups. So, let's say
Mhm.
they only have 3 to 5 employees. Do you think a benefit plan is worth the spend, or is there something, an alternative they can look out for?
The good thing about small business owners, less than 10 employees or whatever, is like if someone's signing up for these kind of employers, they're not expecting a very generous benefits package. And this is the case where it was probably in your best interest to set up a health spending account where you can just use that money on anything you want. And obviously, I don't know the economics of each individual business, but if you can offer employees, say, $500 a year, you can use it on anything you want. That gives a lot of morale to these employees because presumably a lot of people you're attracting might be people out of school who don't have any benefits whatsoever. So if you can offer something basic, that's better than nothing.
That's a great idea. So, would you just suggest that they include this in their budget when they're planning, if they're not going to do an actual benefit plan?
Definitely, just having a health spending account is just a cost of business when you think about it, right? It's just another line expense, and so you
Okay.
gotta add in. And again, if you're talking about 5 employees, that's $2,500 a year, and they may not even max it out.
Right, right. Okay, great. So debt management. So can you explain good debt versus bad debt?
You know what? This employs applies to employees and their employers, basically. Debt management and credit worthiness. Any business owner knows that managing their debt is essential because you take on too much debt, your business is going to fail. Sometimes it's easier than said because you're constantly chasing vendors or whoever clients
Mm.
to pay you on time. Right now I'm looking at outstanding bills of $50,000 because my clients haven't paid on time, and I'm sure that's something a lot of people can relate to. But overall, just managing your debt is essential, and sometimes it's pretty straightforward in the sense that you don't want to spend more than you're making because then you're in the red. But at the same time, you're breaking even is not the point as a business owner, right? You want to make sure that you've got positive cash flow and an emergency fund just in case anything serious happens. The pandemic is one good example where all of a sudden a lot of business owners lost a lot of their business. And if they were able to rely on emergency savings for a little while to figure out their next move, that's a good way to do things. But also, as a business owner, having a good credit score is essential because if you ever need a loan, banks will not only look at your business numbers, but also look at your personal numbers, such as your credit score. And for those who aren't familiar, a credit score is a number between 300 and 900. The higher your credit score, the more credit worthy you are. And on top of that, if your credit score is good, you'll get access to lower interest rates. So it's still possible to get a loan if you don't have a great credit score, but then you end up paying more interest. And that obviously will hurt you in the long run. So if you're ever thinking about securing financing in the future to help grow your business, make sure you have a good credit score.
Right. So versus good debt versus bad debt. So everybody may be in debt. So are there any systems that you may suggest that people can use to kind of help get their line items in action? Is there any softwares that you've heard of that may be beneficial to those that, especially those small businesses that may be struggling?
You know what? For our small businesses, I would say something just having good accounting software, like be realistic, Wave Accounting or QuickBooks, just something that can help you manage things overall so you can see your cash flow. A lot of these products have great built-in analytical tools so you can see where your money's going, where it's coming, where it's coming out, how long it's taking you to get paid. So it can really help you estimate what's going on. And if you've been in business for a few years, it can help you project, hey, you're going to come into a slow period. Maybe it's time to save up a little bit more. And some of these tools also, if you're thinking about expanding, I believe it's QuickBooks, they'll tell you, it's like, listen, you've got good cash flow right now. Now's potentially a good time to spend some of that capital because you're in a good position. But as far as good debt and bad debt, obviously, growing your business, borrowing money to increase your sales or whatever is always a good thing, but you really have to be analytical about it and figure out, it's like, if I'm going to take on this debt, how long it's going to take me to repay it, and how much are my sales going to increase, or my business number is going to increase. There's so many things going on as a small business owner. It can be very difficult. Like, admittedly, sure, I could probably spend some more time on digital marketing and maybe it would help me grow my business, but I know nothing about that. So for me to do that, I wouldn't possibly have to pay someone even more. And I have yet to figure out if that's worth my trouble or not.
Okay, so still with benefits.
Yeah.
So small
Let's,
businesses, yeah, if you want to
this
go through
is
this.
really interesting. Again, this comes from the same RBC economics study which came out just like a month ago. And for small business owners, I think these are things that people want to look at, especially if they're thinking about growing their benefits plan, or if they want to get into offering benefits plans. So the study found that the three most common things that employees are now looking for is online access to doctors and pharmacies, which I found very interesting because, I've gone to walk-in clinics and, with my daughter, and I personally find unless you've got a regular doctor, they don't really help much. So I don't know how much I would trust an online doctor. That said, I think with the digital age, especially coming out of the pandemic, if people have access to online doctors, that makes things a little bit easier. Same with pharmacies, but at the same time, I think a lot of the pharmacies now have their own apps, so it makes that interaction process a lot easier. Sometimes you can just submit your prescription through the app. So technically speaking, some of these tools do exist. So it's on the employees to figure out how to access them. But that's also something that employers can help with, because the reality is a lot of employees just don't have that knowledge. And if you can point them in the right direction and show them like, hey, this is what's available to you, it will make their life significantly easier. And again, this one of the second most prescribed thing, prescription glasses. This is what I was talking about earlier, how glasses are really expensive and people don't increase the value every single year. It would be funny, like, honestly, if you're an employer that offered like just a higher amount for glasses, people would lose their minds because, like, oh my goodness, I've never seen an employer who offers so much for glasses. And again, as a small business, if it's just like a small line item, it's not a big deal in the grand scheme of things. At least hopefully it's not a big deal, because if you're arguing over $100 or $200 a year for 5 employees, you probably got bigger issues to worry about, right? And finally, mental health and wellness programs. This is really interesting too, because 5 years ago, mental health and wellness wasn't even a thing we talked about. So maybe it's a good thing that the pandemic happened, because that allowed people to say, you know what, I'm not okay. I need help. I need someone to talk to. Mental health is a huge concern for a lot of younger Canadians. So having access or benefits that will allow them to spend money on benefits to get them reimbursed for therapy is another one of those benefits that employees are looking for. And if an employer offers them, it might be a good way to attract better talent.
Yeah, definitely. And definitely increase morale as somebody who wears contacts, those glasses. That's because you get both your prescription and your contact lenses, and it definitely adds up. So you did mention having some sort of like healthy spending fund if you're a smaller business, if you can't provide all the employee benefits that your employees may be looking for. But you mentioned these three. Are these the main three that you think that are kind of necessary if you're looking to build out like a benefit plan?
I'll tell you this much. According to that RBC economic survey, these are the top 3 things that employees are looking for. So if you're a small business owner and you're looking to build something out, offering these things are the bare minimum. And when you think about it, it's technically two, right? Because it's not like you could provide direct access to a doctor or a pharmacy. You can provide small drugs or something like that. But prescription glasses and mental health, that's pretty straightforward. Again, for small business owners, offering a health spending account is the easiest way to get started. Okay, now this thing I like to talk about a lot is better education is required. Regardless of the size of your business, I find that a lot of employers really don't do a good job at communicating what's available to their employees, especially when it comes to employee benefits. For example, even though I'm a personal finance expert now, when I got my first job, I had no idea what a defined benefit pension plan was. And for those who aren't familiar, a defined benefit pension plan gives you a guaranteed payout when you retire. Like you can't go away unless the company completely folds, which is possible, but it doesn't happen much. So what's great about this is that it allows people to think about what they have access to. So if someone had informed me what a defined benefit pension plan is at the very beginning, I would have signed up right away. Instead, I waited 5 years until someone told me. And what I mean by this is it's not good enough to just have some paperwork, right? And say, oh, go read this, blah, blah, blah. I think it's really important to have your management or your HR team, if that exists, to just communicate the value proposition there. So it's like, you know, we don't have certain things, but you do have these benefits that can help you. So like we're talking about if you're introduced classes or mental health, you tell them right off the bat, this is what you have access to. This is how you make the claim, because at least then your employees are informed and up to date. And on top of that, there should be some unbiased resources that explain employee benefits. It's weird these days. A lot of people they get suspicious of their employers. You know, I don't know why that is, but sometimes they worry about certain things. But what happens these days is I find that a lot of employers, not maybe a lot, but some employers are hiring outside sources to explain the employee benefits, because this way the employees don't feel like, oh, management's trying to trick me or trying to pull a fast one on me, right? By hiring outside experts to do a lunch and learn, or to just talk about benefits in general, financial well-being, that provides some knowledge, because you're informing them about the benefits and it's from an outside source. So it allows them to kind of feel neutral about it, if it makes any sense. And then the employees can make their own decisions after the fact. And then finally, like I said, enrolling in your employee benefits shouldn't be difficult. That same pension plan I talked about, even though I didn't know about it at the time, I think there was like, you could only sign up for it once a month, once a year for 1 month. So it was very difficult. And this was obvious because it was in the best interest of my former employer to limit how many people were in this benefit, because it would cost them more in the long run. But you don't want that. You want your employees to take advantage of these benefits that you're offering, because right now, obviously, it creates better financial health, financial well-being, and then hopefully gets you a happier employee overall.
Amazing. And definitely, I like that comment about lunch and learn, even if it's just, a quick email reminder to all your staff about, the benefits that they have left at the end of the year. Now that we're getting to that holiday time, I
Yes.
know that's a good idea to send out just a quick reminder to use your benefits while you can.
It's just some basic stuff, exactly like you said. Just a reminder, hey, you have access to these. It's going to reset next year. You might as well use them now if you can. Employees love that, right? It's just like, yeah, you're right. I have access to this cash. It's on me because I haven't used it. Thank you for the reminder, right?
Okay.
Now, risk management and insurance. Now, this one's a little bit trickier for small business owners. But having life insurance for employees and business owners is vital. So let's talk this from a business owner perspective right now. I'm assuming a lot of people attending this chat are business owners, right? And I'm assuming this is your main source of income. So having life insurance is essential because it protects your dependents, your loved ones, in case a worst case scenario happens, you were suddenly pass away. So imagine you're a business owner, you're making most of the income, you get in a car accident or whatever, and you die, and then your family's left with nothing because you don't have any life insurance. So the good thing is life insurance can be purchased on your own. So if you're a small business owner or anyone who has a dependent or a mortgage, get life insurance. There's no question about that. But if you can also offer life insurance to your employees, it can be good. What's nice about life insurance from a benefit standpoint is it actually costs you very little a year. Like we're talking about like a few dollars a month to get insurance for your employees. And a lot of life insurance providers now will work directly with small business owners because the cost to create these plans have become significantly cheaper, mainly because there's more digital tools now, right? So you can connect with a life insurance provider, do everything online, be like, hey, I'm a small business owner. I need to provide life insurance for X amount of employees. And they give you a quote, and it's a generalized quote, and it's pretty reasonable. And it's not like when you're getting personal insurance, you want enough to cover, your mortgage, your kids' education. But when you're getting life insurance for your employees, it's common to just only offer twice your salary or 1 year's salary. So again, it's one of those benefits that can really help people, but may not necessarily cost you a lot. And also keep in mind, again, this whether you're a small business owner or you're an employee, make sure you understand that there's different types of insurance. The two other most popular types of insurance are critical illness insurance and disability insurance. So disability insurance is if you're injured for whatever reason, short term or long term, you'll still be continued to get paid. So this is great because it obviously provides an income for you still, even if you can't work. And critical illness insurance is also handy, but some would argue not necessary, where essentially you get a lump sum. If something serious happens, like you're diagnosed with cancer or you have a stroke, then you get paid a lump sum and you can use that for any reason. And with any insurance payout, it's tax-free.
Okay, so you talked about risk management. So let's say somebody is going through a financial emergency. What's the first thing that you suggest that they do? Or are there any resources that you suggest that they go to right away?
Well, risk management for life insurance is more like making sure you're not dying or protecting your loved ones. But as far as financial emergencies comes to, it really comes down to that emergency fund. Business owners should always have some kind of buffer of cash that they're not touching to ensure that, when there's lean months or anything else, that they have some money to rely on. And this applies to personal finance too. But for business owners, unfortunately, it tends to be a bigger amount because you need to have more funds available to pay your employees and keep your business running during those lean times.
Right. So I know that's I've heard that you should have like 6 months of, savings of expenses, personally. So for businesses, do you think it's the same thing, or do you think there needs to be some more effort that goes into figuring out that number?
6 months, 3 months, 6 months is a general rule, but when you think about it, it's typically not that much. And what I mean by that is, as a business owner, what you're looking for is what's the bare minimum I need to run for my business each month? And based on that number, then you could say 6 months, right? So when you think of it that way, you're like, okay, if I was really an emergency, I could cut X, Y, and Z, maybe lay off some employees. That would help me run the business a little bit longer. So yes, technically speaking, it's 3 to 6 months, but that 3 to 6 months applies to the absolute bare minimum to
Right.
continue to run your business until you get by. So let's just say, for argument's sakes, your expenses are $50,000 a month, you probably wouldn't actually need to set aside $300,000, as a buffer. Like that's no one's going to do that, right? Like that's a lot of money to be setting aside. But when you actually do the math, it might be like, oh, I only need 10,000 a month to survive. 60,000 is a lot more reasonable than say 300,000.
Right. Okay. So
Saving
saving
and
and
investing, you'll
investing.
see this is what we talked about. The number one rule is always build out that emergency fund first. So as a small business owner, you always want to use that money to reinvest into the business and grow your business. But at the same time, as someone who works in personal finance, I think it's absolutely vital to have an emergency fund. And it's funny because this actually applies to disability insurance to a certain extent. I've worked with a few people and I said, hey, why don't you have disability insurance? And their answer was like, well, I've already got an emergency fund, so I don't need disability insurance. Well, the thing is, an emergency fund is good to help you get by for a little while, but disability insurance will last you a lot longer. So, what happens if you break your legs, you're in a serious ski accident or whatever, and you can't work for a year or 2 years? Once you burn those 6 months of expenses, you still got to make money or something. So again, it comes back to that financial education I was talking about. Make sure you understand, your employees understand the benefits available and how they affect you. Because even as an employer, if you can't provide these benefits, some employees will understand that. If you're providing the resources for people to know what's available, they can possibly purchase insurance policies on their own. As a business owner, it's vital to understand the different bank accounts available. The reality is every single bank has different banking packages, especially for small businesses or businesses in general. They probably got 10 each. And for most people, they'll naturally default to their home bank. So if you banked at TD personally and you start a business, you'll probably want to set up a business bank account with TD. But why would you want to limit yourself to that, right? All of a sudden, you're setting up a bank account. There's 6 major banks in Canada. There's digital banks. There's credit unions. You should probably shop around to see what gives you the most transactions for the best bang for your buck, right? And also, a lot of these bank accounts, if you keep a minimal amount, they'll waive your monthly fee, which can help you save, $30 to $100 a month, which is good. But at the same time, you might have to keep $30,000 in the bank account. That may sound like a bad thing, but it can also be a good thing because that automatically serves as your part of your emergency fund that we talked about. So you're setting that money aside. It's good for an emergency, and it also helps you save on your monthly transaction fees. And finally, you got to think about your long-term goals and save accordingly. So if you're a business owner and you think you want to expand in the future, you should always be working towards that goal. I often talk about travel. As you mentioned, I'm a travel expert. I always tell people you shouldn't be planning that vacation 3 months from now. You should be thinking about this vacation 1 year, 2 years, 3 years from now. And then that way you can work backwards and figure out, how am I going to save to make that goal happen? So when you give yourself a timeline, you can set aside that money to help you grow your business. And at the same time, you can just slowly do all the other things that will help you reach that goal.
Okay. So, as a startup, let's say I can't afford to both save and invest. Do you suggest you focus on one or the other first, or do you think both of them kind of have to happen simultaneously?
Generally speaking, saving is always best. Once you get that emergency fund built up, then you can start thinking about investing in your own business or expanding things further. But definitely at the start, saving, getting those numbers just in place. That's what I did when I started my business. Once I had that buffer, I was able to take a little bit more risk.
Right. Okay.
And building the right team, this is also something I like to talk about. I don't remember where this quote came from, but A people hire A people and B people hire C people. And what I mean by this is, when you're a good manager and you hire someone who's just as smart as you or even smarter, that will help grow your business. But it's too often where I've worked for management, well, they will hire people who aren't a threat, who aren't smart, because they don't want to feel like their job's going to get lost. And that actually will affect your business in a negative way, because you're not getting strong talent that are going to push you or help you grow your business, right? So to me, that makes no sense. And at the same time, if you want to scale up, you need to hire the right people. So, earlier in the presentation, I talked about how if I want to increase my marketing, I'm going to have to hire a marketing person. Or for me, sometimes it was something simple. I hired an accountant. It sounds so silly, but once I hired an accountant, it just took that stress away. It's like I just had to provide the numbers. They would give me the tax advice. Sure, technically speaking, I could probably still do it all on my own, but my time is better spent on other things. And I think that's something a lot of small business owners struggle with. They know that they can do it. So paying someone else to do that work seems crazy, right? But once you get to a certain level, you realize that your time is more valuable than that. Yeah, you could do it yourself, but if you spend your time on other things, it'll make you even more money or to help grow your business. So outsource those jobs, hire different employees or new employees that can do the lower end tasks so you can focus your time on the more important things.
Awesome.
Okay, this is just a little fun one. Business credit cards. There's not opportunity for small business owners If you're constantly charging a ton of expenses, you might as well get a credit card and accumulate all those points, whether that be cash back or travel rewards. Because as a business owner, me personally, I'm probably charging about $10,000 to $20,000 a month on my credit cards, right? But because that cash flow is always coming back, I'm always paying it off every single month, so it makes no difference to me. But $10,000 a month, that's 120,000 points minimum. So honestly, that's enough points for me to fly my family of three to somewhere. So you kind of might as well take the benefit out of it. And it's kind of like those bank accounts where I was saying, it's like there's so many options available. You should do a little bit of research to figure out what's best for you. Don't take the basic business credit card that your bank offers you because it has a high limit. You don't want that. You want something that will actually benefit you. And if you've got employees that also make charges, consider letting them have a business card also, so then you can earn points at the same time. But something really silly that employees absolutely love, and I think business owners shouldn't fight about, if employees have business expenses that they need to charge, let them charge it to their own credit card, have them submit a receipt and pay them back, because that's an opportunity for employees to earn points. And it's a benefit that they're getting where it's not really costing you anything real, right? So to them, it's a big deal. It's like, oh my God, I get to charge this, corporate client dinner to my credit card. I got the points and my business won't pay me back. It's like free points. It's a big deal to them. But from an employer standpoint, it's meaningless. So let them have that, right?
That's a great tip. I love that.
Yeah.
So would you suggest any particular credit card for small businesses?
There's so many different ones, and it really comes down to where your major expenses are. Generally speaking, I personally favor American Express business credit cards just because they have an insanely high limit and their rewards program is the best. That said, I certainly understand that a lot of vendors don't take American Express. And on top of that, let's just say you're a small business owner and you're doing a lot of purchases in foreign currencies because that's where your vendors are. You want a credit card that has no foreign exchange fees, because even though you're earning points, if you're paying 2.5% in conversion fees, you're not coming out ahead. So think about where your expenses are, how you're using them, and then take a look at the different credit cards available and see if there's one that matches up with your spending.
Right.
Okay, tips and strategies. Let's talk about what you can do for your employees. Provide links to government resources so employees can learn more. A lot of employees are not coming to you for all the financial knowledge, but at the same time, this is what I was talking about, how just informing your employees, letting them know what's available. The government of Canada actually has some fantastic resources that can help people with their personal finance. Everything from how to do your taxes to how credit cards work. So if you just literally just provide a link, hey, you want to learn more information? Here it is. Consider having some kind of guidebook or some employee resource page where all you're doing is linking to other sites where employees can learn more. We talked about hosting luncheon and learns where employees can learn about their financial health. This is something that I'm seeing a lot of big businesses do. Small businesses can do it also. Again, it's just one of those things where if you can't necessarily provide huge benefits, maybe it's worthwhile to have someone come in or do a webinar, kind of like what we're doing now, to engage with the audience so at least they can understand what's available to them. And that finally, acknowledge that people are financially stressed. It's no surprise, whether you're an employee or a business owner, you just talk to the people beside you, people in your network. Everyone's stressed about money these days, and pretending it's not a problem is not helping anyone. Employees aren't expecting you to fix their problems unless you want to give them a giant raise, right? But they also just want you to acknowledge that there's a problem, right? So these are things that throughout the pandemic, people have become more open to talk about, because everyone's affected by inflation. A year or 2 years ago, it was taboo to talk about how they're feeling, how they're doing financially. But now these days, people will say they're struggling with their finances, and it's okay, because opening up that conversation is good, because a lot of people are struggling, and if they hear it from other people, at least they don't feel isolated and alone.
Yeah, definitely, it's a good way to start getting help as well.
Yeah.
So you mentioned the Government of Canada website for great resources. Do you have any other go-to resources or websites that kind of, you can share with a team to keep them up to date on their financial health?
You can always go to my website, moneywehave.com. I've got some great resources there. I'm on just about every single topic. But honestly, another pseudo government website is called getsmartaboutmoney.com. It really depends on your personal situation. So if you're worried about debt, there's some licensed insolvency trustees, right? They've actually got some fantastic resources because they're dealing with debt on a daily basis. So you can actually learn. And honestly, sometimes people get freaked out about the whole idea of consumer proposals and bankruptcy. And when you actually talk to a professional, you may realize that you're not actually in a bad of a position as you thought. It might just simply be a cash flow or a budgeting issue. So there's more and more professionals available out there these days. It's just on you to take advantage of them or to reach out.
Awesome. Well, that is it for us. Barry, thank you so much for being here today. You
Yeah.
gave a lot of great tips, a lot of great insights, I think, for not only business owners, but consumers. Like I said, I was looking forward to hearing your tips today. Uh, so thank you everybody for joining. If you do have any questions, you can definitely reach out to us after the fact. You can email info@chfa.ca and we'll pass those questions along to Barry.
Yep.
Barry, thank you so much for all your help and support in this webinar. I think it was a great topic, and I think the questions that we answered were great. It's something that a lot of Canadians are thinking about, and maybe they're not wanting to speak up about. So I think that was great advice that you gave. Did you want to say anything else?
Yeah, I think overall personal finance in general has never been more important. And right now it's Financial Literacy Month. So it's really good that you guys had this conversation. And again, there's so many resources out there available. Just take a look, do your research.
Definitely. All right, Barry, thank you so much. Thanks for everybody that joined today. If you weren't able to make the webinar, all the registrants will get a copy of the webinar after the fact. And thank you again, Barry.
No
Hopefully we
problem.
will see you soon. And thanks, guys. Thanks for joining. Take care.